So we're going to do some visual design. We're going to take a look at the Figma MCP and start by adding some custom colors to the Tailwind config. And so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over into Figma and I'm going to right click on some frames and copy links to their selections. And that way, this is kind of like, right now it's the way that you can kind of put context directly from like artboards or layers or whatever from Figma into their MCP integration. Hopefully in the future, you can just like say what you want, but right now there's a little bit of manual shoveling back and forth. This is the thing that I'm pulling things out of. We've got it in developer mode. So, Shift D in Figma to flip back and forth between developer mode, which is actually really, really cool. They kind of like muted a bunch of the features and made it hard to like accidentally change stuff or, change the rotation on a thing when you're trying to grab its corner. So this was like the first frame that I grabbed. And yeah, let me zoom in here. It's got like some spacing conventions. It's got some custom colors. It's got some custom gradients. We've got some kind of reusable components that are going to be common across pages and a grid system. And then, yeah, a bunch of content. I'll zoom out here and see. So it's like, it's a couple days of work if this is all you're doing and you're like real fast and have done this before. It's a lot of work if you like are trying to learn a framework while you're doing this. And yeah, so I was able to get in a few sessions with intent ripped through this like a chainsaw. It was like 45 minutes and it was pretty functionally close. It was like 95%. And now the designer has intent and is iterating on the last 5% of all of the little knobs and screws. And this is a person who's never used Git before and was like, super enabled by this. So I'll show this project as we get started. We're kicking off a workspace. And I've seeded this project with a little bit of stuff. So, okay, PMPMI. For things like this, one of the techniques that I really like to do is like, I have an idea in mind of how I want to build this project. I want to use Astro, I want to use Tailwind. There are a couple other things that I like might want to have. I tend to like do those first opening moves myself. One, because they're like good generators for these things. And two, it kind of like by seeding that context into the project with, what you want as a developer, you get an opportunity to have your opinions in there and not just rely on like whatever default is going to get spit out from weights. So right, like there's, a little bit of content here, Astro servers capable of running. And so while we've been doing that, intent has been off pulling this context directly from Figma. It found that, hey, there's this, design system layer. There are a bunch of custom colors in it. And it sees that it's Tailwind v4. It's not going to try to write a Tailwind v3 file. And so it wrote a little bit of a little spec here to kind of like do this. So we'll approve the plan, start the implementation, and yeah, we're off to the races. This is going to start firing off agents. So now we can move on to the next step. So this is done. There's not going to be really any side effects to look at on the website, but we can take a look at the commit that it wrote, which, pretty simple. Again, this isn't, rocket science to do, but certainly saves a little bit of copying and pasting, from the Figma file. And so, but now the fun's really going to start, because this Figma file doesn't just have a bunch of, design guidelines in it. It actually has like full content for, 7-8 pages on a website. And this is real prompts. Like I did this session, a couple days ago, and like this was kind of like exactly how I arrived at like a working website. So we're doing it live. We're going to see how this goes. Hopefully it's going to work pretty well. So again, I'm going back over into Figma now, and I'm hitting Command L to grab, the direct links to artboards. We've got the first page, we've got the grid, we've got the typography, Word. So, okay, this like looks like a website. We've got, so what this has done, if you're just joining the stream, we have this comped out in Figma, where worked with a designer on this. They have, 7 or 8 pages that has a bunch of, content that's written out, that's kind of done in this, pretty specific way. Right now, there are a few things that like are like visually off, but we're going to address those. But it's been able to pull things like, colors for gradients. It's obviously not making like an all purple and, shad CN you know, kind of the tells. It used to be Bootstrap, now it's Shad and purple gradients that, you know, you copied your homework from the open source repo. Cool. So like, I think we're doing pretty good on this. So we haven't started one task, and we have hotkeys up here in the corner. Another fun thing that like we have these views where you can see like, you know, a tile view of like all of the agents that have launched in your chat, and you know, these are like kind of the standard pane interactions that you would normally expect. But my favorite one is to just take me back to the planning spec when I've been like messing around and dragging tabs back and forth. It gives us 2-up view of like, here's everything that you've done, here's the plan we've written so far, here's the coordinator agent. Coordinator's a boss, he's the best person to talk to. So we looked at this and it's pretty good. Next up, we're gonna have it break out the header and footer, because we're gonna go make some more pages. Like, this page is okay, and we're gonna address like the problems on that page, but the magic of working in an agent orchestration workspace like Intent is that you can do a bunch of stuff in parallel, especially when they're not, you know, going to be writing, you know, over top of the same lines in one file. I'm going to go back over to Figma, where I'm going to grab a link from a comp and then full send, let's go. And then what I'm also going to do is tee up the next prompt, which is a fun thing that we have, where we can add tasks for and then queue them up.